Thanks for taking part in this brief Bible dive with Beautiful Savior Lutheran Church in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, and with me, Pastor Nick. Today we're going to talk about the death of Moses as discussed in the Bible. Moses, that great teacher and prophet of Israel. Deuteronomy 34 tells us, "Then Moses went up from the plains of Moab to Mount Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, which is opposite Jericho. And the Lord showed him the whole land, Gilead as far as Dan, all Naphtali, the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, the land of Judah as far as the western sea, the Negeb and the plain, that is the valley of Jericho, the city of palm trees, as far as Zoar. The Lord said to him, This is the land which I swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, saying, I will give it to your descendants. I have let you see it with your eyes, but you shall not cross over." Then Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, at the Lord's command. He was buried in the valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor, but no one knows his burial place to this day. Moses was 120 years old when he died. His sight was unimpaired, and his vigor had not abated. The Israelites wept for Moses in the plains of Moab for 30 days. Then the period of mourning for Moses was ended. So Moses was able to see the promised land from the top of Mount Nebo, which is in present-day Jordan, but he was not permitted by God to enter it. And why was that? Well, there's this incident that's recorded in Numbers chapter 20, where the people were at Meribeth Kadesh, and they were grumbling against Moses and God, quite as usual, and they were thirsty, and they asked why Moses would lead them into the wilderness to die of thirst. Not the first time this happened. So Moses and Aaron spoke with God, and Aaron, Moses' brother, and God told them to speak to a rock, and that when they would speak to the rock would bring forth water for the people. But instead of speaking to the rock, Moses struck the rock and said, actually, that he and Aaron would provide them with water. In other words, Moses was taking credit for an act of God that he wasn't even doing as God asked him to do it, to fulfill it. So earlier, there was this other time when God told Moses to strike a rock, and he did it, and water poured forth from it for the people, and God received the glory. But this time, it just didn't go down that way. So the punishment was spelled out in Deuteronomy chapter 32, verses 49 through 52, when God told Moses that he could ascend a mountain, view the promised land, but he would not be able to enter it. So what we know then is why Moses could not enter the promised land. And we know that he was 120 years old when he died on Mount Nebo, albeit apparently a very healthy 120-year-old person. And also we know that no one knows where Moses was buried. And note, it does say that he was buried. So it's not like he fell asleep on the ground and just, maybe died there. Someone buried Moses. But there's no knowledge of the location. Well, that seems strange. We don't have a story like with some other leaders where, they were buried and then, and then the people who buried them were killed by the next people who were then killed by the next people, and it was all kept a mystery, or the story of somebody being buried underneath a river that was blocked off in Europe, and then they allowed the water to flow again. No, it's not like that. It's just actually, in a strange way, it's stranger. See, it's almost like you'd say, but wait, there's more. Because you see, there's something else about Moses' death that's mentioned in the Bible that's just, how do we say it? Weird. It's really weird. In the New Testament letter of Jude, which is so short that it doesn't even have chapters, in Jude verse 9, the author states, "But when the archangel Michael contended with the devil and disputed about the body of Moses, he did not dare to bring a condemnation of slander against him, but said, 'The Lord rebuke you.'" Say what again? So the archangel Michael and the devil, Satan, argued about who would get Moses' body or how he would be buried or whatever. We don't know for sure, but they were arguing about his body. Now, remember from the Deuteronomy reading that Moses was buried, but the people did not know where. Yet apparently, Michael and the angel and Satan knew where Moses was buried. So what's going on here? This sort of passing comment in Jude, it's actually a reference to a book that did not make it into the Bible, and which we don't even have a complete copy of this book today. It's called the Testament of Moses. And it was a book that some Jewish people, when Jude and Jesus and the apostles were alive, it was something they thought was sort of helpful, so they were aware of it, but it still never made it into the scriptures. Apparently, though, in this, we hear, and from the scriptures themselves, Satan did not think that Moses deserved an honorable burial. That's why Michael actually rebuked Satan with the words, "The Lord rebuke you." These are absolutely identical words to ones that we hear in Zechariah chapter 3, verse 2. And in that reading in Zechariah chapter 3, we hear of Satan arguing about another dead person. We hear about Satan accusing Joshua, the successor of Moses, of not deserving an honorable death and an honorable burial, I should say. So there's one other point about the reading from Deuteronomy that kind of completes this picture of what's happening. In Deuteronomy 34, verse 6, we have the words translated into English as, "He was buried in a valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor, but no one knows his burial place to this day." But you see, in the original Hebrew, it reads just a little differently. It actually reads more like this: "He buried him," not they. "He buried him in the valley of the land of Moab." Rather than that passive sense that we get with the translation that I read, where it says he was buried in a valley in the land of Moab. See, the thing that's being implied here is that God personally handled Moses' burial. So the reason that nobody knows where Moses is buried is explained by the fact that it seems God took care of it. And it seems humans did not witness the act, although apparently angels did witness the act. Angels like Michael, the archangel, and yes, let's not forget that Satan is also an angel too, albeit a fallen one. So there it is, Moses' death. I mean, the events surrounding it were unique by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly Moses was unique too. I mean, as the book of Deuteronomy itself concludes about him, never since has a prophet arisen in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face. He was unequaled for all the signs and wonders that the Lord sent him to perform in the land of Egypt, against Pharaoh and all his servants and the entire land, and for all the mighty deeds and all the terrifying displays of power that Moses performed in the sight of all Israel. So thanks again for joining with me, Pastor Nick, and with beautiful Savior Lutheran Church in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, for this brief Bible dive. We'd love for you to subscribe to our channel and select to receive notifications. And to learn more about our church, please go to our website, bslcmi.org. Now, go love God and love your neighbors.